So let's take a look at what we need for our slip and zip wallet. This is the medium size, and for the medium size we need to cut card slot A, 3 pieces of, cork, leather, vinyl, anything that won't fray. Card slot B, we need to cut 6 pieces of. The welt, cut 1. Snap supports, cut 2, and you'll need to cut a hole in it, or if you are using a cutting machine it will cut the holes for you. Now, either way works just fine. A zipper tab, cut 1. Now we'll need a zipper pocket, cut 2 pieces, and a pocket lining. Now this one has to have one cut reversed, so you need to cut one with the pattern piece like that and one with the pattern piece like that. So you get 2 pieces opposite each other, with this on one side and on the other side on the other piece. And I just use these bits of vinyl scraps just so that my clips don't mark my vinyl. You'll need to cut an ID pocket window and cut that centre bit out so you leave a hole for your ID pocket window, your clear vinyl. You need to cut one of those. We've got the panel A piece. We need to cut 2 of those, and again the holes, you need to cut those 2 holes out of that, or if you've used a cutting machine that will cut that out for you. You'll need to print your card slot layout guide, and I'll show you how to use that when we work through the pattern, but it's just basically to help with the positioning of the card slots. We'll need some continuous zipper, number 5, cut to 7 inches or 18 centimeters, and a corresponding zipper pull. And I like to stitch on the end away from the open end just to secure that and make sure my zipper pull doesn't come off while I'm mucking about with it. You'll need a snap. This is a 12mm or 1/2 inch snap. It's a metal one and comes in 4 pieces, and I use my hand press to set that, but cam snaps or any snaps like that will work just fine. You'll need some double-sided tape. That's for securing your zipper in place while you sew. And we need some glue, some quick drying fabric glue. I get this one from Spotlight, but you might be in another country and not have access to these glues what I'm using. Just look for something that's quick drying, permanent fabric glue. I suggest quick drying because it speeds up making the wallet so much faster if it's quick drying. And for your panel A pieces and for your zipper pocket lining, we need a glue that you can cover the whole surface with. This one is a bit thick and hard to spread over the whole surface, so I just use this fabric glue. It's more runny and easier to spread, so if you can, doesn't matter what, I've got more suggestions in the pattern if you want to have a look and see what might be available near you. I use a paintbrush to spread this glue and a stick for spreading this glue, and you'll also need a marking pen of some description. So that's it. I think that's it. So now we can get started. So first up we're going to make our ID pocket. So retrieve your ID pocket and your clear vinyl window. And for this I'm going to use double-sided tape. You could use glue if you like, but I find it too messy for me and I get it everywhere, so the double-sided tape is good because I don't get it on my vinyl. Just put that around the 4 edges of the window opening. Grab your vinyl piece and just center that over the top and place it down like that. Now we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch all the way around the window, and we're also going to top stitch the top of our welt, the curved edges of our card slot B pieces, and the curved top edge of the card slot A pieces. Okay, so now I'm just going to top stitch around my ID window. 3mm 1/8 of an inch from the edge, and I'm using a top stitch length of 3.4. You can use whatever top stitch length you like the look of. Now I back tack at each end to secure the stitches, but if you prefer you can pull them to the back and knot them off like that. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch the top curved edges first of our ID pocket. Like that. And now we're going to do our card slot A pieces. I'm just going to top stitch the top edges of those. Our card slot B pieces, top stitch the top of those. Like that. And now we're going to top stitch the top curved edge of the welt. Okay, now that we have top stitched the curved top edges of our card slot A, card slot B, welt and our ID pocket, and also top stitched around the window of the ID pocket, we need to retrieve our card slot layout guide. And we're just going to fold along at the orange line and then along the blue line. That, and on this side as well. Now we're going to retrieve one panel A piece and set the other one aside. So grabbing your layout guide, we're just going to line up the pieces. I'm just going to clip there in the middle to hold it. Same at this end. Like that. I'm grabbing a marking pen. I'm just going to use a regular pen for this so it won't come off. And then I'm just going, because you won't see it under here, hold that under and mark my card slot. Same with the next one. Placement line of the lower edge of the card slots. So we do the same for the other side. I can take that off and set that aside. And that top corner is where our ID pocket goes, but we're not worrying about that at this point. So first we'll start off with our card slot B, and we're going to place some glue on there and then stick this one down, and then the second one goes next. So we're going to do all these inner ones first. Just using my quick drying glue and a stick. Now it just needs to be 3mm 1/8 of an inch. The edge, you just want the teeny weeny bit of glue along here, because it's just to hold it in place until you stitch. It's not important for other reasons, not like the edges where you just don't want to have them fray and look ugly. So place that on that line and pop it down. Do the same with the other 3 inner ones. Making sure these side edges are even. Now if you have to move it around a little just to make sure that they butt up to each other but don't overlap, now's the time to do it, or it's stitched down. And you can grab a card slot A piece and double check that that's going to be sitting right. And now I'm just going to put my quilting ruler on top like that and add a weight and just leave that to dry. Okay, so now I'm going to top stitch the bottom end of the card slots, 3mm 1/8 of an inch from the edge with my normal top stitch length of 3.4. Back tacking to secure it. Like that. Now make sure you go ahead and trim off all these threads. The fun part. So now that we have stitched all those, we're just going to glue these little ends down. Just a little tiny bit of glue on each end. Glue just helps to give it a bit more strength because there are a high stress point here. That. Now retrieve your card slots A, and we're going to put glue around the 3 straight edges. And put that over the top. Make sure you are aligning those raw edges as neat as you can. That. Retrieve your ID pocket window, and now we're going to put some glue around the straight edges of that. Place into the corner, press it down, and now I'm just going to add some weight and let that dry. Okay, so now I'm just going to top stitch each of these 4 edges using a 3mm 1/8 of an inch seam, and my top stitch length is 3.4. Back tacking just to secure that off. like that. Okay, so now that we have stitched those 4 pieces, we need to retrieve our snap supports, and we're just going to glue them onto the wrong side. Line it up with your hole. Just make sure your edges are even. Same with the other side. Now we're going to retrieve our second panel A piece, and I'm going to use my other glue for this, the one that spreads easier, with my paintbrush. And I'm going to apply it, well, this glue only needs it on one side, so I'm just going to put it on this side here, because I want to cover all this. If you need to do both, that will depend on your glue. Now we need to spread it over, but don't use a ton because it takes too long to dry if you use too much. Ask me how I know. Okay, so now I'm going to grab the second piece. I'm going to lay it on there and line up those holes and line up the edges as neatly as I can. And press that down. Just going to put some weight on it, but I'm going to move it to another table so it can dry away and I can continue working with my zipper pocket. While our panel A assembly is drying, we shall get on with our zipper pocket. If you want to put a label into your zipper pocket at the back, now's a good time to do it. So I'll just set that one aside with the label because that's going to be my back. And I'm just going to mark 6mm or 1/4 of an inch from the edge on each side. Grabbing some double-sided tape, I'm just going to put this tape in between those marks. They do tend to rub off a bit on this vinyl, but it doesn't matter so long we get this on there. It doesn't have to be exact, we can eyeball it. And I just forgot, we need to put our zipper tab on our zipper. So grab the tab, grab the double-sided tape again, and we're just going to put it onto the right side like that. And now we're going to center it onto the back of the zipper tab. So it's about halfway down the tab. Press it down. And now just pop over to the sewing machine and top stitch each long edge. Three millimeters, 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And I do the wrong side from this side because I find if I do it from that side, that gets stuck on my teeth down there, so it makes a mess. And this does a neater job. So now that we have attached our zipper tab, we're just going to place this right side down, lining the end of the tab up with that 6mm 1/4 of an inch line. Press to stick that down. Just undo the zipper a bit. And now we're just going to bend this around so that the teeth are just on the inside of that line. And we're just going to grab a pin and just pin through the zipper tape only, just to hold it. And now we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to baste that zipper teeth there like that, and then we're going to stitch the seam using a 6mm 1/4 inch seam. Should I put it on the other side for a start? I'm just going to baste this zipper pull. Zipper tape. Like that. Now I'm going to stitch the zipper, putting the needle back over to the other side. I'm going to stitch this zipper in place using a 6mm 1/4 inch seam, and I'm just going to go over the teeth a bit there. As I approach my zipper head, I'm just going to lift that, move it out of the way, and make sure that's still even. So now that we have stitched our seam, we're just going to finger press this so that the seam is away from the zipper teeth. Put the vinyl like that, and we're going to stitch 6mm 1/4 inch from the fold. Sort of move my needle back over, and I'm just going to put some thickness behind there just to help even that foot out, since it's a bit of a dip there. That's my dog snoring. Okay, so now that we have done that, we need to attach it to our other zipper pocket piece. So I'm just going to measure 6mm 1/4 inch in from the edge and make a mark. Now we're going to go over to the sewing machine, and we're going to baste this and then stitch our seam. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just baste this zipper tape so it stays the teeth, or holds the teeth at an angle like this. Like that. Move the pin. Now I'm going to stitch the seam using a 6mm 1/4 inch seam. Just going to trim these threads off. Going to close my zipper. Fold my seam over, finger press, move my needle over so I can stitch my 6mm 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so now we can trim our zipper tape back. Just leave it just a little bit sticking out like that. 1/8 inch, 3mm, up to 6mm 1/4 inch, and retrieve your zipper pocket lining pieces. And what we need to do is we're going to glue these down like this. So this edge is raw, even with the raw edges. The top edge is even with the fold of your zipper pocket underneath, and there's going to be a gap all the way around. That is for keeping bulk out of our seam. So If you are using a two-sided glue, then at this point I would trace around that so that you can apply glue to the right area within here if you need to apply it to both. And this one will go on this side like this. Same story, if you need to apply glue to both pieces, draw around it so you know where to add your glue on that side. And so now we'll just add some glue. I'm only applying to one side, so I'm just going to add it to my zipper pocket lining pieces. Like that. Now I'm just going to flip this over and stick it down. Going to clip those sides. And I'm just going to clip around the edge as well. Now, if you think you're going to be leaving this sit for a while, then I would use something inside your clips like this, so you don't mark your vinyl. Stuck to my paper. Got a bit of extra decoration on the inside of my pocket. Now that'll rub off just like that. Like that. Now I want to make sure that this center bit is going to stick down, so I'm just going to add a little bit of something in the middle there, like this, just to give it that bit of pressure until it dries. Okay, so now that my glue has dried, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to top stitch from, where's something I can point with, from this point here just above those bottom card slot bank all the way around back down to this card slot bank. Not stitching on here, just ending right next to it, starting there and ending there. And then I'm going to go and stitch between these two card slot banks right here. That's because once we get our snap installed, it will be very difficult to top stitch this area, so we do it now. Maybe if you've got a really narrow foot, that might not be an issue for you later on, but I'm going to do it now. Okay, so now I'm going to start my top stitching just above that card slot bank there, and I'm going to be stitching 3 millimeters, 1/8 of an inch from the edge. My stitch length is 3.4 as always. I'm just going to do a couple of stitches to lock it in place. Now I'm just going to stitch between these card slot banks down the bottom here. Like that. So now that we have top stitched around here and between here, we're going to install our snap. Now the button piece goes in the top here so that when you close it you see the button. So that goes down there, and we need to, I don't have the right piece. That's the piece that goes on here, this one here. like that. So it's important to make sure you're getting the button, the cap, on the outside. So our hole's already punched. We have that, like that. Like that. Okay, so now that our zipper pocket has dried, we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch 3mm 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fold. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch 3mm 1/8 of an inch from the edge, and I'm just going to put this bit of extra padding behind there to keep my foot level. And I need to move my needle over there. Like that. Now we're going to do the other side. Like that. So now that we have top stitched those sides of the zipper, we need to make a mark at the bottom of the back zipper pocket. So that's the one when it's facing you and the zipper pull is on the right. So find the center, make a mark, and now measure and mark 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 of an inch either side of that mark, like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch between those two marks. Now I'm going to stitch between those marks 3mm 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Doesn't matter if you go a little bit over it, so long you don't go less than. Time to add our welt. So grabbing your zipper pocket with it right side down on the table with the closed zipper pull on your left. Now retrieve the welt and we'll put that right side down there. Grabbing some glue. We're just going to run some glue down the side of the welt. Turn it over and stick it down. It's got to go right down to the bottom, so align those very corner edges, and we'll just get some clips to hold. And yes, it's about 6mm 1/4 of an inch back from the edge. Just make sure those edges are even. Like that. And now we'll just let that dry. Once it's dry, we will top stitch from all the way from the top right down to the bottom. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch down the side of our welt all the way from the top right to the, all the way from the bottom right to the top. Open the zipper so it's out of the way. With your zipper pocket right side up on your table and your zipper pull on the left and your welt on the piece away from you, what we're going to be doing next is sticking this down. So what we will do is run some glue around those three sides. doesn't have to be super accurate here because this is just your center slip pocket. Doesn't have to fit a nice little neat card. Now retrieving our panel A assembly with the ID pocket away from you. We're going to place that down on top of our zipper pocket assembly. And we're going to line up the edges and we're going to clip it to hold. There, so that's there like that, and that's there, and that will have that little zipper slip pocket in there. So now we just need to sit that there and let it dry. So having removed those clips, now we're just going to put some glue along here. And alright, I did this before without turning the video on, so if it looks like it's been glued, it's because it did have a bit of glue on there. So just run your glue down there, bring this around. You could put it on the other side of the welt, but I find it easier to do it this way. Just remember to leave that top little bit non-glued. Just getting that edge nice and neat. And just going to leave that to dry. Okay, so now we've had time for that to set. We're just going to take these clips off and we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're just going to pull this pocket back out of the way and top stitch all the way from the top to the bottom. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch this welt all the way from top to bottom, 3 millimeters 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Okay, so now that we've stitched our welt, we're just going to run a little bit of glue around these edges. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the inside edge of the welt. That's a little bit much. Don't need that much, and a little bit on the inside and a little bit on the outside. What did I say before? A little bit on either side of the welt. And now we're just going to clip everything, line up those edges and clip to hold. I'm going to edge coat this, so I'm not overly concerned if my edges aren't perfect, because I will trim to make them as neat as I can if I need to, and then I will edge coat, and that will hide any unevenness. I like to use a base coat first, like that. Now we're just going to leave that to dry. So now that we've had chance for that glue to dry, we'll take the clips off and we're going to go over to the sewing machine and stitch from here to our previous top stitching, back tack, and then stitch from this side of the previous top stitching over to the corner and then up to the other side. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch our last two sides. We'll start over here right at the end, and 3 millimeters 1/8 of an inch from the edge, top stitch length of 3.4. To our previous top stitching, back tack, and then we'll continue on from here. like that. And woohoo! We are done. Now all we need to do is edge coat these edges. Well, you don't have to, but I'm going to do that because I just think it's a little bit neater. But there's our centre pocket and our zipper pocket. There we have it.